You're watching WNDU TV. News Center 16 at noon starts now.
We start with some new developments this afternoon. One person was airlifted to a hospital after a brutal crash near the Concord Mall. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Travis Robinson. It happened at 4:15 this morning at County Road 45 and Heimbaugh Avenue. Police say a black car was coming down the road when the driver lost control and ran off the road. When they got back on, the driver overcorrected and ended up spinning into a Durango, effectively getting T-boned. Now, police say the person who was airlifted is in pretty bad condition with head and most likely internal injuries. They say the person in the red Durango made it out with minor injuries, but was taken to the hospital to get checked on. Police say everyone involved was wearing a seatbelt. Now, a case of a former Benton Harbor police officer is headed to trial. Stephen Johnson is accused of running over a suspect with his police cruiser back in May during a chase. Michigan State Police finished their investigation and charged Johnson with assault with a dangerous weapon, which is a 4-year felony. However, the judge has denied that charge. Johnson will instead go to trial facing a charge of assault with intent to do great bodily harm. And dashcam video shows Ronald Glover Jr. running from police after they tried to question him for riding a bike without a headlight. And that's in violation of a city ordinance. That's when Johnson hit Glover with his cruiser. Now, Glover was taken to the hospital and later released.
If you rely solely on the video, then you are not getting the whole story of what happened.
Ron admitted his faults in what happened, and so we just would hope that they would admit, or the officer would admit, that he made a bad decision.
Now, Johnson's defense attorney says the trial will begin in October, but the exact date hasn't been set yet. Now, this morning, an 18-year-old Michigan City woman is in jail on a murder charge. Javiana Aldridge is accused of shooting and killing Joseph Pryor Jr. Police say it happened on Wednesday night on North Woodland Avenue, but at this point, police haven't given any more details about the crime. And today marks the last day for Elkhart's Tolson Center. This is a video from a goodbye party last month. The center closed on June 8th after the city council cut its funding, but it was still open for its summer camp. But that summer camp ends today. The center served the community for about 25 years, and a committee has been formed to decide what's next for the building. And now to a developing story we've been following for months. Time appears to be running out for Honeywell retirees. A judge ruled yesterday that Honeywell doesn't need to give retirees health insurance for life. Starting August 1st, Honeywell will no longer be required to cover retirees or their dependents' health care coverage. Yesterday, retirees gathered outside of the South Bend plant alongside Mayor Pete Buttigieg to voice their anger, calling it a broken promise. One retiree explains how losing coverage not only hurts him, but could also hurt the local economy.
It's going to go from a number of years ago where I didn't pay anything for my health insurance to about $350 a month for me and my wife, plus drugs. And so that's going to take that out of my pension, and that will affect the economy here in this area because this is going to happen to a lot of people, so they're going to have a lot less money to spend.
Now, local retirees continue to gather signatures for a petition, and they're hoping that petition makes it to Washington before time runs out next Tuesday. New details out of Indianapolis. A teen was pinned between a wall and a kitchen table after a car struck her home on Thursday. Amazingly, she walked away from the accident uninjured. Investigators say a 21-year-old woman missed a turn and drove right into the home, causing $50,000 worth of damage to the garage and kitchen. The children inside the home were okay, but neighbors say they're surprised something like this hasn't happened before. The intersection currently only has a one-way stop, something they say needs to be changed before something like this happens again.
They zoom up and down here all the time. You know, kids be playing right across the street. They play in that yard all the time, and I be scared because when I come to this stop sign right here, you got to look and you got to pause at least about 10 seconds before I can come across just across the street to come in my driveway.
Now, right now, there's no word on if the driver will face charges in the incident. But it looks like we're running into some great weather today. Storm Team 16 meteorologist David Harker joins us now from the Weather Lab. And David, what are the chances of rain this weekend?
Well, for the most part, they're going to be minimal, Travis. That's something that we've been watching not only since this morning, but certainly now into the afternoon. And it's only a matter of time to see if any rain showers still pop up. So let's first take a look at the downtown South Bend Skyview 16 camera. A lot of clouds, but the sunshine's peeking through. We're A-OK south of the state line here at the current moment, but that could easily change just like it has for folks north of the state line. Notice what we've got going on. And I mentioned this during our morning show that right around the noontime hour, we were probably going to see some showers. So let's zoom in on those north of the state line, anywhere from extreme eastern Berrien County through Cass, Van Buren, St. Joseph, and even into Kalamazoo counties in Michigan. Now, I do expect us to see a change in our forecast as we look to Saturday and eventually Sunday. We'll talk conditions, rain and temperature wise, as well as next week. That's all coming up later in our newscast. Travis.
Thanks, David. Overnight, the government faced a court-ordered deadline to reunite more than 2,500 children separated from their parents at the border. Now, we won't find out if that goal was met until later today. But NBC's Gabe Gutierrez tells us how the scramble to reunite these families has just been an absolute mess.
This morning, more migrant parents like Omar Dominguez from Honduras are finally together with their children after being separated at the border. But hundreds of other families are still in limbo, sparking international outrage. Among children ages 5 to 17, the government says it's reunited 1,442 out of 2,551.
We are on track to reunite all eligible parents within ICE custody.
But 711 others had not been reunited, many because their parents failed background checks or had other red flags. 431 children have parents who've been deported. Former acting ICE director John Sandwick.
There's a very good chance they're going to be permanently separated.
Utelia from Guatemala was separated from her son Jeremy for 45 days. I was desperate, she says. I spent every day crying and crying. I thought I would never get him back. Her son tells us he was bullied by other children while they were apart. They took me to the detention center and took my mom away in chains. She was crying, he says.
This must end now!
Yeah! Immigration advocates say the grueling process has been confusing and chaotic. In a court filing, the ACLU says at least 27 parents were misled into signing away their reunification rights.
It's terrible. I mean, the immigration case itself is already confusing and very difficult. Add on top of that weeks, or in some cases months, of having been separated from your child.
Now, United Airlines is donating hundreds of free tickets to reunify families and fly them to places where they'll await immigration hearings. Now, the government is scheduled to provide more details of whether it met the deadline to a federal judge later today. New information: President Trump just announced the United States economy is growing at its fastest pace in almost 4 years. New numbers released this morning by the government show the economy grew 4.1% in the second quarter. Now, that's the largest growth since 2014. The strong progress this past quarter reflects large increases in exports, government defense spending, and orders on durable goods. Unemployment is also at an 18-year low. The trend of growth might slow as economists are predicting smaller numbers in the second half of the year as interest rates rise and the effects of the tax cut wear off. Now, happening today, an Indiana wife and mother will say her final farewells to her husband and 3 children who drowned when a duck boat capsized in a Missouri storm last week. The Indiana woman, Tia Coleman, and her 13-year-old nephew are the family's only survivors. In all, 9 Coleman family members died last Thursday. Funerals for the other 5 Colemans are scheduled for Saturday. They range in age from 2 years old to 70 years old. A total of 17 people died in the accident. New at noon, a 6-year-old girl with a brain tumor in Hollins, Michigan, opened a lemonade stand to help her fund her medical costs. And now a farmer is helping her raise even more money. Emerson Hugendorn was diagnosed with a brain tumor in June and had surgery soon after. Now, to help with medical costs, she started a lemonade stand, and when her neighbor, Tim Bolt, who's also a farmer, saw the stand, he donated a half of a truckload of corn that Emerson could sell. So what started as a lemonade stand has now expanded into the corn market.
I'm a grandfather and I have a grandson that's the same age, and just my heart, really wrenches in what they're facing and what their challenge is.
He's currently on chemo and radiation therapy with a clinical trial on a new medication to start soon. Along with fundraising online, the money Emerson makes goes to offset her treatment costs insurance won't cover. Now, calling all you food lovers out there, there's a new hot spot in Mishawaka that you definitely need to try. It's called the Jesus Latin Grill and Tequila Bar, and it's now officially open. It's located inside the old Carnegie Library on Hill Street. The restaurant's unique because the decorations resemble fire and ice, and all the food is cooked on a wood-burning grill. The menu is filled with food anywhere from the border of Mexico all the way to Argentina.
Too often in the U.S., you go to the ubiquitous Mexican restaurant and you get chips and salsa and, a bean and cheese burrito that's smothered in enchilada sauce. Nothing wrong with that, but there's so much more culturally involved in the food and the passion that goes behind making the food in Latin America. We wanted to actually do that justice.
And in just a few weeks, the upstairs of the old library will be a fully furnished banquet hall ready for public use.
More to come on News Center 16.
A deadly California wildfire is far from done. We'll tell you about the damage it's causing. And some good news for all of you frequent flyers out there. We'll tell you how American Airlines is changing the rules. But not all is good in the air. One airline had to make an emergency landing after many passengers started getting sick. All of that after the break.
And we're likely to see more of those pop-up showers this afternoon. Could they affect you this weekend? I'll let you know all about it in the forecast.
You're watching WNDU TV, News Center 16 at noon.
New developments: a deadly California wildfire is raging out of control and forcing thousands of people to leave their homes. This is what crews are up against in Shasta County, where the Carr Fire has already burned nearly 29,000 acres. Right now it's getting dangerously close to Redding and is only 6% contained. It's already destroyed 15 structures, a bulldozer operator was killed Thursday battling the flames, and several other firefighters were hurt. More than 1,700 firefighters, along with California's National Guard, are now trying to get the fire under control. And a firefighter who's been battling the wildfires in Utah has been reunited with his dog that got loose while he was gone. Daniel Klein was working the front lines of the Dollar Ridge fire when he got terrible news. He found out that his pup, Maja, had gotten out of his backyard. Klein was so distraught about it that he was allowed to leave the front lines of the fire and go home and look for her. After 2 days of searching, he got the call. Maja was in an animal control shelter. Now, when the two reunited, it was kind of hard to tell who was more excited. Now, Klein says he's going to do a better job of securing the backyard, but in the meantime, Maja will be getting lots of treats. Now, a consumer alert for frequent flyers. American Airlines is giving in on one of its rules for its cheapest seats. The airline will no longer require passengers traveling in basic economy to check their carry-on bags and pay the fees. In 2017, when the airline launched a no-frills fare, travelers flying on basic economy tickets were banned from bringing carry-ons that didn't fit underneath their cabin seats. But all that changes when the new rule takes effect on September 5th. And a Spirit Airlines flight to Florida from New York was forced to make an emergency landing after several passengers became sick. That all happened last night, and the plane had to land in Myrtle Beach. Everyone on board had to get off the plane, wait on the tarmac, before eventually getting on another plane. Passengers on the flight say they smelled a strange burning odor and then became sick. Firefighters searched the original plane but found no hazardous materials. Now, Spirit Airlines has refunded all passengers on the flight. Now, the longest lunar eclipse of the century will take place in just a few hours, but we won't be able to see it from the United States. A blood moon will appear in the night sky around much of the world tonight as the moon moves into the shadow of the Earth. But only people in India will be able to see it at the longest extent of the eclipse. According to NASA, the total eclipse will last about 1 hour and 43 minutes through a partial eclipse. A partial eclipse precedes and follows, meaning the moon will spend a total of 3 hours and 54 minutes in the Earth's umbral shadow. Planetariums and schools in India have been organizing special events to raise awareness and create a buzz around the historic event.
Yeah, it's too bad we wouldn't be able to see that eclipse since it officially begins, or at least coverage begins, right around 3:30 Eastern time this afternoon. Yeah, we're not going to get a chance to see it, but if you wanted to see what a lunar eclipse would look like, well, it would just turn that blood red color. So let's take a look and see exactly what happens during a lunar eclipse. The sun puts out these different rays of light, and you can see it in that yellow line as well as the two orange lines that show up on the screen. And this is what makes what we call the penumbra and the umbra being where you can see the total eclipse itself. So you notice that on the screen. It's usually that little yellow area behind the Earth that you'd see that moon eventually turn the reddish color. And as we put this into motion, you get a good glimpse of just that. The interesting thing about this graphic is this is exactly what it's going to look like if we were looking at a top-down view later on today. You'd have the North American continent on the forefront of the sunshine, and then you'd have on the backside of the Earth the Asian continent, and in India, where it's going to be such a sight to be seen. My goodness, as that partial eclipse lasting over or the entire eclipse rather, over 3 hours. Let's take a look. Satellite radar combination close to home over the past 3 hours. We've seen the development of some light scattered showers. I told you about this earlier in the morning. We are continuing to watch the skies for more clouds and the potential for more isolated showers. You notice that right here at the noontime hour, it's just north of the state line. And I wouldn't be surprised south of US 6 and US 30 if you happen to see some showers in just a little bit. We'll take a look at future track in just a moment. Notice the afternoon planner, 71 here at the end of our newscast, 73 in many locations of Michiana by 3:30. We'll peak our temperature right around 74 to 75. Unless you're right along the lakeshore, you'll probably hover right around 70 the remainder of today. A look in time, the 16 future track model is not picking up the scattered showers, but certainly showing them as we look to the latter part of today south of US 6 and US 30. We're likely going to see a partly to variably cloudy sky the remainder of today. I do expect the sky to clear back out as we look toward midnight tonight. Temperatures dropping into the lower 60s and eventually the upper 50s. Latest model now trying to indicate some isolated showers in the morning hours on Saturday. I'm still on the fence. I'm not exactly sure that this will happen this way. I think they're going to be very isolated in nature if they happen at all. Nonetheless, 10 to 20% chance of rain. Most of you will be dry. The 70s will make their way in town. Once again, the middle 70s as Saturday rolls around and Sunday. Now take a look at the rainfall that we could see through tonight. Really not all that much. The model isn't even impressed with the areas south of US 6 and US 30. Now, including the weekend going into Sunday night, you see a few more numerous showers and numbers popping up, almost a quarter of an inch of rain there in Cass County, and even a bit further more south in Winnemac, we could see over a tenth of an inch. So it's a waiting game to see how it pans out. Saturday right now, I've got the green category day. Most of you will be dry, even if the isolated showers are in town. And as we transition to the rest of our forecast, you're noticing a more active weather pattern into next week. By the way, we're looking at August beginning on Wednesday. I can't believe we're already through the month of July and on to another month, the 8th month of 2018. Where has the year gone? That's my big question. Where has the time gone? It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of students are asking, where's the summer gone right now?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of summer, or speaking of the end of summer, we always think about the pack a backpack, 16 pack a backpack. That's happening tomorrow. Right. You can look for details on our website, WNDU.com.
All right, well, speaking of school, coming up, a new survey shows people will be spending more money on back-to-school shopping this year, and we'll tell you why. And we'll show you more on this hilarious video of a bear just hanging out in a storm drain. That story and more when News Center 16 at noon continues. New information, back to school shopping time is here, and this might not surprise you, but a new survey says the majority of parents are stressed out about it. Now, parents say breaking the budget is the biggest source of stress, so our Liz McLaughlin has the category that will cost you the most this season and how to save.
Parents are shelling out a pretty penny this year for back-to-school shopping, with electronics eating up more of the budget.
Laptops, smartphones, calculators, a lot of devices that kids need these days.
According to a survey by Brand Keys, parents will spend 7% more this year on back-to-school tech, an average of $200. And more parents will be splurging for a big-ticket item such as a computer this year.
When you're looking at laptops, it will start from about $150 all the way up to $2,000+. So understanding what your child actually needs and not overspending is going to be important.
The Lenovo Mix 630 is a 2-in-1 model, doubling as a tablet and a laptop for about $700. The Microsoft Surface laptop is also a solid choice with deep discounts of $300 off for back to school.
If you're buying something big and expensive like a laptop, you may not want to order sight unseen. So you can go into a store, check the keyboard, see how it feels, and then if the price is better online, order it there.
Another way to save, get off-brand accessories. Amazon has its own brand of cords, cases, and other accessories for under $15. For example, this iPhone charging cord from Apple is $29, but it's only $8 on Amazon Basics. That could mean a little extra lunch money when fall rolls around. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
Now here's a tip if you're using shopping online, use a comparison tool such as Camel, 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 or Honey to track prices. It may seem early, but don't put it off, because prices will start off low, but they'll slowly rise until school starts, and then they won't drop again until after classes are already started. Now we have new details about a study showing why it may be dumb to bring your smartphone to class. A study from Rutgers University found students who are allowed to use their phones during lectures scored a half grade lower on final exams. Even students who didn't use the devices themselves did worse when phones were allowed in the classroom. Experts say digitally distracted students have a harder time focusing and remembering what they've learned. Now, caught on camera, a bear in Colorado found himself in a tight spot yesterday when he got stuck in a storm drain. Now, Colorado Springs utility workers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife officers worked together to free the bear. Crews simply removed the manhole cover from the drain, and the bear soon popped his head out and set off for freedom like he is there. Wildlife officers shot at the bear with non-lethal rubber slugs in an effort to scare him off, enough to keep him from returning to the area. Now, because the animal ran off unassisted, officials did not get him an ear tag. Now, Krispy Kreme is celebrating its birthday by giving a present to you. We'll tell you about an offer that's pretty difficult to turn down coming up after the break. Stay with us. Well, today's Friday, and that means you should treat yourself, especially because it's Krispy Kreme's birthday, and they have a deal for their delicious donuts. You can get a dozen original glazed donuts for just $1 with the purchase of any dozen. The company is also releasing a special edition glazed confetti donut available for 1 week starting today. Now, it's a vanilla birthday cake donut with the original glaze and confetti sprinkles. And I hope we don't have any sprinkles throughout the rest of the week here.
Well played. Yeah, I tell you what, that donut looks good.
It does. Delicious.
Yeah, but we do have some sprinkles coming out of in our area right now. You take a look at the latest satellite radar combination. Got temperatures overlaid on top. Currently, we're sitting close to 70. Those isolated showers north of the state line, but they still could drop south of US 6 and US 30 today. We'll bring you the latest during our 90 minutes of news later on this evening.
All right. Well, thanks for that update real fast there. And that's News Center 16 at noon. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and remember, pack a backpack tomorrow.
Yep, 7 to 10 a.m., various locations across Michigan. You can check out the entire list at our website, WNDU.com. I'm going to be joined by Josh and Tricia Monday morning at 4:30. You can take the morning off, all right?
All right, cool. Yeah.
Bye-bye.